Journey to the West, an audio drama series. Chapter 17, Part 1. We speak now of Sun Xingzhe. Jumping up with one somersault, he sent all the monks, doodles, servant boys, and laborers prostrating to the skies in fear, crying, "Dear Lord, he's actually a cloud-riding divine sage who came down to the mortal world. No wonder fire cannot hurt him. It's all the fault of that ignorant old bastard of ours, plotting with ill intentions only to harm us in the end." Sanzang said, "Please rise, all of you. No point in blaming him. If the Gashai can be found, then everything will be fine. I only fear that if we cannot find it, you know my disciple has a terrible temper. I don't know what will happen to your lives. I'm afraid none of you will be able to get away." The monks heard him and all had their nerves hanging in their throats. They prayed to heaven for the Gashai to be found so that they could come out alive. We will speak no more of that. We instead go to great sage Sun, who was in the air. By twirling his waist a bit, he had already arrived on Black Wind Mountain. He stopped the cloud and looked closer. It was indeed a fine mountain. Moreover, it was a day in spring. What he saw were thousands of streams and peaks vying with beauty. Birds chirped, but no human could be seen. Petals fell, yet the trees remained fragrant. Rainfall wet the green cliffs, while wind stirred the trees growing on these walls of emerald. Wild plants thrived across the rugged hills. Rare animals enjoyed their days on these layers of glowing jade. Xingzhe was appreciating the view when he suddenly heard people talking right in front of a neat grassy slope. In careful steps, he slipped beneath a rocky cliff for a peep. It turned out to be 3 monsters sitting on the ground. On the top seat was a dark man. Lower on his left-hand side was a Taoist, and the right-hand side a scholar in white. All of them were engaging in animated conversations about alchemy and cultivation. As they were talking, the dark man laughed and said, "The day after tomorrow is the day of my mother's suffering. Would the 2 gentlemen mind coming over?" The scholar in white answered, "We celebrate the birthday of the great king every single year. How could we miss out this year?" The dark man said, "I took possession of a treasure last night called the brocade Buddha's robe. It's indeed a fine and amusing item. Tomorrow I will use it to celebrate my birthday and host a grand banquet. I will invite religious men from all the mountains to honor the Buddha's robe. Let's call it Feast of the Buddha's Robe, shall we?" The Taoist laughed and agreed. "Marvelous, marvelous, marvelous indeed. I shall head over to congratulate you for the birthday tomorrow, and then attend the banquet the day after." Xingzhe heard them talking about this Buddha's robe and knew it was his treasure. Unable to control his anger, he jumped from behind the rocky cliff, raising the golden hooped rod with both hands, and shouted, "Damn you, crooked monsters! You stole my Gashaya and dare host this Feast of the Buddha's robe? Give it back to me right now!" He then cried, "Don't you run!" He wielded his rod high up and struck down right on the heads. Panicking, the dark man escaped by turning into a gust of wind, while the Taoist ran away riding on clouds. Only the scholar in white was killed with a single strike. Wukong pulled the body over to have a look. It turned out to be a snake monster with white patterns. So he picked the corpse up and tore it into several pieces before heading straight to the backside of the mountain to look for the dark man. Passing sharp peaks and brushing across rugged ridges, he again came to a steep cliff, atop which was a cave residence. Look at it. Shrouded in smoke and mist and surrounded by pines and cypress. A bridge was built above aged woods as wildlife thrived before the gates. Wind sent forward the aroma of blossoms, while birds and butterflies flew about. A rustic scene, to be honest, not worthy of much praise. But there was still more to see than the land of the immortals. Xingzhe came up to the gate and found 2 stone door planks shut tight. Above them was a stone tablet with 6 clear characters written on it. 黑风山, 黑风洞, meaning Black Wind Mountain, Black Wind Cave. He then wielded his rod and shouted, "Open the door!" An imp guarding the gate opened the doors and asked, "Who are you? How dare you attack our immortal cave?" Xingzhe cursed, "You damnable lowlife! How dare you call this place an immortal cave? The word immortal shouldn't even come out of your mouth. Go inside now and report to that dark fellow of yours. Tell him to deliver the Gashaya to his lord here this instant, and the lives of this entire nest of yours will be spared." The little imp hurried inside and reported, "Great king, the feast of the Buddha's robe is no more. Outside the gate there is a hairy-faced monk with the mouth of a thunder god who's demanding his Gashaya back." The dark man just escaped home from Xingzhe right at the grassy slope. He only shut his doors a moment ago and had not the time to even sit down. Hearing this, he thought to himself, "I wonder where this fellow is from. How very rude! How dare he make noise in front of my doors?" He then ordered, "Bring me my armor." When he had them on, he grabbed a spear decorated with a black tassel and ran out the door. Xingzhe was outside with his iron rod in his hands. He opened up his eyes to have a look, and what a ferocious creature that monster was indeed. Wearing armor made of shiny black gold and a dark robe underneath, he had the spear in his hands and a pair of dark leather boots on his feet. Flashing golden pupils like lightning, he truly was the Black Wind King of this mountain. Xingzhe laughed to himself and said, "This fellow looks just like a brick burner and no different from a charcoal grinder. I guess he makes a living here by collecting ash. Otherwise, how did he end up so dark all over?" Meanwhile, the monster shouted loudly, "What sort of monk are you? How dare you act up here?" Xingzhe held his iron rod and rushed forward, roaring, "No more chit-chat. Give your maternal grandfather's Gashaya back right now." The monster asked, "Which temple are you from, monk? Where did you even lose this Gashaya? How dare you demand it from me?" Xingzhe answered, "My Gashaya was placed right inside the back room of the Guanyin monastery straight north of here. It was only because the monastery caught on fire that you bastards stole it amidst the chaos. You even planned to use it to host a feast of the Buddha's robe. How dare you deny that? Give it back to me as soon as possible so I can spare your life. If you are to have it no, I will overturn the Black Wind Mountain, trample the Black Wind Cave flat, and grind this entire cave of evil monsters into powder." The monster heard him and sneered. "You unruly creature. So it was you who started the fire last night. You were on top of the back room summoning wind to aid your crime. It was indeed I who brought the Gashaya here. What are you going to do about it? Where are you from? What is your name? What power do you even have that you dare bluff such reckless words?" Xingzhe replied, "You have no idea who your maternal grandfather is. This elderly grandfather of yours is the disciple of Elder Sanzang, the royal younger brother in the superior kingdom of Great Tang. My last name is Sun and first name Wukong Xingzhe. Speaking of Elder Sun's tricks, if I told you, it would send your soul flying out of your body and make you drop dead right in front of me." The monster said, "Well, I certainly don't know about that. What tricks have you got? I'm all ears." Xingzhe cackled and said, "Son, stand still and listen very carefully." And so, Wukong began telling his life story starting from his youth when he found the way to eternal life from his first teacher to wreaking havoc in heaven and being punished for his misdeeds. He concluded his very long introduction by saying, "Converted to the righteous side, I am heading westward. Up in Thunderclap, I will meet Buddha himself. Ask anyone across heaven, earth, and the four seas, and they will tell you I am the monster with the greatest name of all time." The monster heard that and laughed. "So you are that Bima Wen who wrecked heaven?" Nothing irritates Xingzhe more than being called Bima Wen. The moment he heard it, his heart was filled with rage, so he shouted, "You crooked monster! Not returning the Gashaya you stole is one thing. Smearing your lord is another. Don't you run. Have a taste of my rod." The dark man dodged with a swing of his torso before grabbing his spear and striking forward. What a splendid fight between the two of them! The rod and spear showed off their might before the cave entrance, both with the intention to harm. A colorful set of tricks were performed amidst all the mist and glow. These two fiendish immortals were not ones to be underestimated. One was the heaven-equaling sage now cultivating for virtue. The other was the great Black King who became a spirit. This battle in the mountain was over a geishaya, and neither party was there to act as the good side. The monster fought a dozen rounds with Xingzhe, but there was no obvious winner. Gradually, the red sun rose to the noon position. The dark man used his spear to block the iron rod and said, "Sun Xingzhe, let's call it off for the time being. Let me go have a meal before resuming this fight with you." Xingzhe said, "You vile creature, is this how you act like a man? Such a great man that you need food only after half a day. Think about Elder Sun, who was pressed under a mountain for over 500 years. I couldn't even get a sip of water, and you dare talk about going hungry now. Quit making excuses. Don't you run. Give me back the geishaya and I'll let you go eat." The monster then faked a strike with the spear before withdrawing into the cave. They shut the stone gates and retrieved all the imps. Afterwards, they still went ahead and arranged a feast, writing invitations for the monster kings of other mountains to come attend the celebration. We will speak no more of that. We instead turned to Xingzhe, who, not being able to fight his way into the gates, had no choice but return to the Guanyin monastery. The monks in that temple had already buried the old monk and were all attending to the Tang monk in the back room. The vegetarian breakfast was over and it was time for a vegetarian lunch. They were just serving soup and water when they saw Xingzhe descending from the air. The monks prostrated to him before welcoming him into the back room to see Sanzang. Sanzang said, "You have returned, Wukong. What has become of the geishaya?" Xingzhe answered, "I have found the root of it. We never wronged these monks earlier, but it turned out the geishaya was stolen by that monster from Blackwind Mountain. Elder Sun went looking for him in secret, and saw him, a scholar in white, and an elderly Taoist sitting under a grassy slope talking. This monster gave me a confession without torture. He suddenly said the day after tomorrow would be the day of his mother's suffering, and he planned to invite all the evildoers to come celebrate. He then said he obtained a brocade Buddhist robe the night before and intended to use it for the birthday celebration. He will host a grand feast called the Celebratory Feast of the Buddhist Robe. It was Elder Sun who rushed forward and landed a strike with my rod. The dark man escaped by turning into a gust of wind, and the Taoist also disappeared. I only managed to kill the scholar in white, and it was a white patterned snake spirit. Afterwards, I hurried to his cave and asked him out for a fight. He admitted that he was the one who took it. We fought for half a day but couldn't determine a winner. That monster then went back into the cave saying he needed to eat. He then shut the stone gates and wouldn't come out again out of fear. I therefore came back to check on Master and inform you of where things stand. I already know the whereabouts of the geishaya. I'll make sure he gives it back." The monks heard his words, and they either pressed their palms together or kowtowed, crying in unison, "Namo Amitabh, they found the geishaya today, and we are finally able to live now." Xingzhe warned, "Don't you get giddy and relieved so soon. I haven't taken it back, and Master has not left your gate. Only when we have the geishaya back and my master is comfortably out of the gates will you return to peace and bliss. Should anything go wrong, Elder Sun is not the type to be messed with. Did you serve good food and tea to my master? Did you feed the horse with good hay?" All the monks rushed to answer, "Of course we did. We absolutely did. Absolutely. Not the slightest mistreatment upon the Lord over here." Sanzang also explained, "This half a day since you've been away, I have had 3 servings of soup and tea and 2 vegetarian meals. None of them mistreated me. It's just that you still have to work hard to get the geishaya back." Xingzhe said, "Be patient. Since we know where it is, I will make sure to capture that thing and take the item back. Don't you worry. Don't you worry at all." As they talked, the abbot of the upper chambers once again arranged a vegetarian meal to serve Lord Sun. But Xingzhe only ate a little bit before ascending on the auspicious cloud again to look for the geishaya. While on his way, he spotted a small imp coming from the main road with a rosewood box under his left arm. Xingzhe assumed there must be some kind of letter in the box, so he wielded his rod and struck down. Poor thing didn't stand a chance against this blow and was reduced to a meat patty. He then pulled the corpse to the side of the road and opened up the box to check. There was indeed a letter of invitation, which read, "Your young pupil Bear sends his humble greetings in this letter addressed to Supreme Clergy the Venerable Elder Jin Chi. I have been blessed by your grace many times before and am profoundly grateful. Last night I noticed your ordeal by fire. I apologize for not being able to help with the situation. I am sure you, the divinely intelligent, have not been adversely affected. Your pupil by accident has obtained a Buddhist robe and plans to host an elegant gathering for it. We will carefully arrange a feast of flowers and wine. I sincerely wish you would join us on this exquisite occasion of appreciation. When the time comes, I sincerely hope your divine presence will come by for a visit. Deepest gratitude for your blessings." Written 2 days prior. In this letter, the old monk of the Guanyin monastery was addressed by his religious name, Jin Chi, meaning golden pond. Xingzhe finished the letter and burst into laughter. That old bastard died a deserving death after all. Turns out he ganged up with the monsters. No wonder he managed to live to be 270. It must be that monster who taught him some tricks about feeding on air, and that's how he enjoyed such longevity. Elder Sun still remembers his appearances. Let me just turn into that monk and have a trip inside his cave. That way I can see where my kashaya is. If I can find it, I'll just snatch it back and save myself a lot of effort. Splendid, great sage. And so he recited a spell and, facing the wind, transformed into the spit image of the old monk. He hit the iron rod before coming towards the cave entrance in wide strides, yelling, "Open the door!" The imps opened the door, saw what he looked like, and turned around hurriedly to report. "Great King, Elder Jin Chi is here." The monster was astonished. "I only just sent out an underling to deliver an invitation to him. The letter has not even arrived at his place by now. How did he show up so soon? I guess the little one didn't bump into him on his way. He must be here to take back the kashaya by Sun Xingzhe's orders. Whoever is in charge shall hide the Buddhist robe from his view." Xingzhe by then has entered the front gate. What he saw in the courtyard were pines and bamboos forming an array of emerald, as peaches and plums competed over their colors. Flowers thrived, with orchid sending out waves of aroma. It was actually quite a paradise heaven. And then he noticed a couplet hanging by the 2 door planks, reading, "Hiding in the tranquility of a deep mountain, I have no worldly worries. Living in a divine cave such secluded life, happiness lies within simple innocence." Xingzhe muttered to himself, "This fellow, too, is a monster who has rid himself of the dirt and dust of the world and come to understand the purpose of life." He proceeded inside the gates, and 3 layers in, he could see nothing but decorated pillars and beams along with colorfully bright windows. And there was the dark fellow who was wearing a dark green silk robe, a grey cloak with flowery threads, a black soft square hat worn by hermits, and a pair of black deerskin boots. He saw Xingzhe come in and tidy his clothes before coming down the stairs to greet him, saying, "Jin Chi, my old friend, it's been so long. Please have a seat, please." Xingzhe returned the gesture to him. After meeting, they sat down and had tea. Once tea was over, the monster turned and asked, "I happen to have a brief letter awaiting your opening. It's about a gathering on the day after tomorrow. How come you are already here today, my old friend?" Xingzhe answered, "I happen to be on my way to pay you a visit before unexpectedly bumping into your honorable letter for me. I then learned of this elegant feast of the Buddhist robe. That is why I hurried here. I would like to have a look at it." The monster laughed and said, "Oh, friend, you are not making sense. The kashaya originally belonged to the Tang monk. He is staying at your place. How is it possible that you have not already seen it and had to come see it from me instead? Xingzhe explained. This humble cleric did borrow it, but didn't manage to open it up for a better look last night. I didn't expect that you, great king, had taken hold of it. My desolate mountain was ravaged by a fire, and we lost a lot of property. That disciple of the tongue monk was also quite aggressive. Amidst all the chaos, we couldn't find the Gashaya anywhere. The great king is fortunate enough to be in possession of it. That is why I came to have a look. Just as they were talking, a patrolling imp came in to report. Great king, disaster! The little soldier sent to deliver the invitation has been killed by Sun Xingzhe by the roadside. He followed the tracks and transformed into Elder Jinshi to trick the Buddha's robe from you. The monster heard this and muttered, I knew it was strange that the elder came today and so soon. So he quickly rose and grabbed his spear, aiming it right at Xingzhe. Xingzhe, on the other hand, pulled out the rod from his ear and returned to his true form. Blocking the tip of the spear, he jumped right out of the monster's living room. They fought from the courtyard all the way to the front gate, shattering the nerves of every monster in the cave and frightening the soul out of the old and young. This fine battle taking place on the mountain was unlike the one from last time. A splendid fight indeed. The Monkey King was bold as the dark fellow was cunning. The brilliant plan was foiled by a patrolling imp and enraged the old monster. Loud and bright, the rod and spear fought to prove who was right. Wukong's transformations were a rarity in this world, but so was the monster's powers. One wanted the Buddha's robe for his birthday, while the other would never leave without taking it back. This bitter fight was sure hard to stop, even if Buddha himself was present. The two fought from the cave entrance to the mountain top, and from the mountain top up into the clouds. Amidst fog and wind, sand and rubble, they went at each other until the red sun was setting in the west. But there was still no victor. The monster said, Hey, Sun, stop for a moment. It's getting late now and not a good time to fight. You should leave. Leave now. Come back tomorrow morning and I'll fight with you to decide who lives or dies. Xingzhe yelled at him, Don't you run, my son. If you want to fight, then act like a fighter. You can't get away with it by saying it's too late in the day. Look at him, just throwing his rod forward without reason. The dark fellow again transformed into a cool breeze and slipped back into his cave. With the stone gates shut tight, he refused to come out again. Xingzhe had no choice but return to the Guanyin monastery.